beautiful people, welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today I'm bringing you my guest, Mira. Thanks to technology, I found Mira a shamanic practitioner while I was doing some research. Have you ever heard of shamanism? Do you know what's involved in shamanic practice? Have you ever tried psychedelic drugs? Did you know there are other ways that you can tap into your unconsciousness? Personally, I have been on this spiritual journey for quite some time now, and I'm so thankful that I found Aubrey Marcus's podcast, which led me to Mira. If you have never heard of shamanism, or maybe you want to tap into your unconsciousness, or maybe you feel like it's time for you to explore the spiritual side of things, well, you are going to love this episode. Actually, because Mira and we had such an amazing chat, there will be two parts to this dramatic topic. You would definitely want to grab your notebook and a cup of tea or warm water for this. So enjoy! Before we talk about your journey and what you do now, I would love to say thank you. For those who don't know you, you got 2 kids and you are a busy mom, so thank you for sparing time for me.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. But please tell me, how are you feeling today?
Today, I feel very productive and energetic. Not so much stress today, and my kids are very good today. So I actually got to read so much today, and for that I'm so grateful.
What are you reading now?
I actually have this habit of reading multiple books at the same time. So the 2-3 main books that I'm reading now is the first one is called It Didn't Start With You. The author is Mark Wolin. It's a family constellation or related book. It's in this book he talks a lot about the epigenetics, that how although our genes come into our body, but we can activate certain gene or DNA in our body with our thought or our choice. So that's a way to look at the genetic point of view from disease or from trauma or from a lot of difficulties in life, that you get to see that you get to reprogram your own destiny by consciously choosing what kind of program was installed in there, and then to how to kind of consciously change that, and by finding out all this descriptions and how you narrate about your life. Like we all have the stories that we tell about, how my parents are, how my partners are, how my kids are. And then when we describe all that, you will see that the words that you choose to describe them, it actually reflect your inner image towards life. So that's a very interesting book to read if you're very interested in family constellation.
Yeah. And for those who are listening and watching, I hope you're very intrigued about who Mira is already because of the things that she's reading. And I feel like the book is like teaching people about mind over matter. So for those who are listening and watching, if you're interested, please go check it out. Now, please share with everyone what shamanic is.
I am a core shamanic practitioner. So I personally feel that's just a title. If you look at shamanism, what shamanism really is, it's that you look back at how people in a tribal society, how they live. You look at their way of looking at this universe, is that everything in this universe has spirit, has their consciousness in it. So in their way of the way of their living, they're living in the nature, they're surrounded by nature. So back then, that they need to find ways to find food, find the way to for the shelter and to find medicine, to find animals to hunt for the food source. So how do they find these information? In a lot of the anthropologists, the research, they reveal this part in their spiritual life, is that they have this kind of medicine man or medicine woman, or now we call them shaman, or in many cultures there's so many different kinds of name on shamanic practice. And then they look at all this, say, witch doctors, like what they do, like they would go into a trance, and then they will connect to the essence, or say the consciousness of everything around them, to find information, because they have to really know their surrounding in order to survive, even to thrive. So by connecting with all this spirit, or the essence, or the consciousness of, say, the trees, the animals in the area, the mountain, the river, or the ocean, or even some of them living in like desert, they get to connect with that and find information as to where can I find water, where can I find the animals to hunt. So shamanism, before we look what shamanism is, we need to look at animism. Animism is that everything has spirit, everything has consciousness, and then they're not dead matters. They're not just materials. They have a lot of things to reveal about themselves, and the only thing we need to do is to connect to it. So in a lot of tribal culture, you will see that animism is a big part in their life. So for those practice animism, that doesn't mean that necessarily practice shamanism. Shamanism is a way that this so-called witch doctors or shamans, or they connect, they get into this altered state of consciousness, which is kind of like in a trance. And then when they get into a trance, they connect with all the spirit around them. They consciously negotiate, or they find out information. They work with these spirits. So the main feature of shaman is that they kind of travel into a different realm. Rather than, people who practice animism, they might just be here and connect with everything around them. But for shamans, they leave their body, and then they go into a different realm to speak with different, we'll say, divine beings, or spirits, or souls, or even ghosts. Anything that's around them. So that's what they do. And then by doing that, they bring in information, and then they also bring in certain type of healings. And this type of healing is different than, like the Western medicine type of healing, like that's more focused on, biological part about our body. They bring in the healing that's a lot of time that's not just confined to this body. That's also, the healing can be something very, energetic, or emotional, or in something that we can perceive with our five senses, or in a regular, ordinary state of consciousness. So that's what basically what shamanism is that first you have that basic knowledge about animism, and also that you travel out of your body to a different realm. So that's what shamanism really is. And then so nowadays when we look at shamanism, a lot of people look at them, they're like, what are they doing? Like sometimes what they do just seems so ridiculous, or seems like it's just crazy. And then you have a lot of mainstream way of to judge them, saying that they're just stupid to ask spirits to give them whatever they're asking for. Well, that's a way of looking at things when you do not understand the context of how they live. But
Yes.
when you put yourself into that context of the way how they look at things, of their cosmologies, when you put yourself in there, then you could understand why they do things that way. Instead of, some people might use more Western centric type of way to judge anything that's different than their belief. So I feel to understand shamanism, you will need to kind of get rid of what you're taught.
Yes.
Like growing up, like this is the only thing we have, like the body is the only place we have, and then and anything out of here is just nothing. That is the main thing where we are taught growing up. But actually this life has more, it's like a multi-dimensional. It's not just this dimension, it has so many different dimensions, even though we can't see them.
Yes.
But they're here. They're here no matter you acknowledge them or not. So in shamanism, you get to see that part that you don't see, and you see in a different eyes. And while you're exploring that, you get to get out of your
normal
pattern.
thinking.
Your
usual
normal
thinking.
usual pattern of thinking or habitual way of thinking, and you get to look at things in different filter, like when we just say this tree is just a tree, then you don't have any connection with it. But when you in some way you feel the life from a tree, and you feel it not just with your eyes, like seeing it, you feel it, you feel the energy that comes from it, you feel the life that's sustaining it, and then the energy that's coming behind it, then you will look at this world differently. And then that's just a tree. Then imagine that you see things, you see everything around you has a life, has consciousness, that you naturally you would treat this world differently. You wouldn't want to hurt Mother Earth. You wouldn't want to pollute the air or pollute the water. And I really like the saying in this one of the native tribe. I forgot the name of their tribe, but they would say that the mountains, the river, and the ocean, and everything in nature, they are all big brothers and sisters. And we human, we're here so much later, we're only the little brothers and little sisters. So I really like that way of looking at life with humility in it.
Thank you so much for explaining it between the animism.
Animism.
And shamanism. And for those who are interested to get into this journey, I feel like anybody can get into this journey, to be honest. Like, you don't need to be a certain type of person, or when you look at someone who might have different energy or skill, whatever, I think everyone can do it. It's just you need to open up your heart and your perception and soul. Then you will welcome yourself to experience many more things in life. But can you please share with people, what were you doing before you become a shamanic practitioner?
I'm a businesswoman.
What?
My husband and I, we started this home health care online store in Canada many years ago, when everyone was saying that's about 2008, 2009. So that's when online shopping wasn't a thing. Online shopping was something like, whoa, who would do online shopping?
That was the time, the great financial crisis. 2008.
So yeah, it was like everything, like the financial part about the world wasn't that good.
No.
And then it was only in the very, very beginning of online shopping. I remember at the time in Asia, like in Taiwan, from what I knew, uh, Taiwan had much better of e-commerce running
Yeah.
infrastructure. And then, like you get to buy stuff online more. But
Mhm.
here, back then in Canada, everything was just starting. So people will be like, why are you starting that? It's crazy. But sometimes you have to do crazy things to start early, right?
Yes,
It's what
totally.
pioneers. Yeah. So that's what I did before I got into all the spiritual learning.
Is
Yeah.
the shop still open?
Yeah, still open.
Oh,
Yes.
cool. Well, for those who are interested, please go check it out. I'll leave the details in the description if you're interested. Oh, actually, what can people buy on it?
So the website's agecomfort.com. And so people can just go on the website and they just shop. And then currently we only shipped across Canada. We don't ship into other countries. And so whoever is in Canada and who needs some home health care product, they're very welcome to go online and check.
There you go. That's how many people shop these days anyways.
Yes.
We'll share with everyone what has been your top three the most magical and most healing experience since you've been on this spiritual journey.
I think one of the biggest moment for me to confirm that spirits actually work, like they're actually working, because I'm a very stubborn person. Like it's not easy to convince me for anything. Biggest pivotal moment for me that they show their existence and then they show what they can do, that really changed my perspective, and also they win my trust. There was a time that my friend, her house was on fire. So
Okay.
and then she has a few animals with her, and she lost, like one of her cats just gone missing after the fire, because the cat could get really scared and then they ran off. So at the time I wasn't out of closet yet about I'm practicing shamanism.
Yeah.
So all I knew was that she was in a very, very distressed situation, that she couldn't find her cat, and then her house was burned down, and then all that happened. So I just had this desire of telling her that you try everything, and if you can find it, how about you let me try, like even if I can't find it, I could do something for her, right? Just just do something for my friend, even it's just out of comforting her and saying, hey, like I'm trying to help you, but in a very weird way. And at the time she didn't know I was practicing shamanism, so I just tell her, I'm gonna use a very weird method, and I need your permission to let me do this. And then so she said, okay, no, I have no other way, so you might as well try. Whatever weird it was, you try. So I tried to locate this cat. So first I did a shamanic journey, and I asked my helping spirit where this cat is. So they show me the location. They just show me where this cat is. And then what I saw was just a dark place. I was like, obviously, obviously cats hide in, dark places. So then the next thing they show me was that they show me from the cat's point of view, where the cat what the cat can see. So I saw certain things, certain views. And then so I asked my friend, could this cat be, in your basement somewhere? Because it looks like somewhere in the basement. So she checked in her house, nothing. So then I was at the point that I was like, maybe can't find it. But there's this thing, this curiosity, stubborn thing, being a stubborn person, is that I don't want to give up. So I was like, let me try another way. So I went to see her in her house. I met up with her, and then I walked around the street and tried to see if there's anything that looked like what they showed me.
Yes.
But I couldn't, because the neighborhood was so big. And then so at the time that I noticed that my friend was in this really anxious state, and then she couldn't find light, and then she couldn't find anything good. Of course, your house just burned down, you lost your cat. Like, she was in a really dark place. So this time when I asked my helping spirit, I asked them in a different way. I asked them if there is certain way that I can help her instead of finding the cat.
Yeah.
So they gave me a different direction. They said, okay, so how about you tell her to meditate. I was like, tell her to meditate? She never meditate. But they told me steps, like tell her to meditate, and when she meditates, tell her to send great thoughts, like good memories of about those times when she was with her favorite cat, that cat, like all the good times, all the good memories, the love, the the fur, the everything, like just put that beautiful memories, that beautiful energy into her meditation. So that's the second step. And the third step is that she will send out this great beautiful light, including all her good memories and the feelings towards this cat in distance. So at the time I couldn't understand why, but I just followed. I just said, okay, they said you have to do this. It was like, okay, but I'll try, because there's no other way. So I'll try.
Yes.
So she did it. So then my helping spirit then tell me that I would need to use my laptop, open a Google map towards to her area. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. And then so I opened it, and I back then I don't have a tablet, so I have to put the screen down. And then they told me to use a dowser, like a crystal, those chain.
Yes,
with
yes.
Crystal. Forgot the actual name for that. Anyway, just the chain with the crystal. So they said, okay, so now have your friend to do that meditation while you're locating where this cat is. So I was like, this is crazy. Okay, but okay, hey, do that, and then I'm doing this. So she was doing that, and I was doing that at the same time, and I could really feel that energy was surrounding me. And then so I started to have that crystal to move, and then so I go house by house. And the first house, no. Second house, no. Third house, it started to move. So I was like, could be this house. So I had my friends on the phone at the same time. I was like, have you checked this house? Have you asked them? I went there like 2 times. They said nothing. But I was like, but it's there. So I enlarged that house a little bit more. Sorry about all the privacy in the house, but I make it bigger. And then so I locate it. It's in the backyard. So I'm like, okay, it's backyard. It fits what I saw earlier. It's in the backyard. It's in a dark place. So I was like, it's in the backyard. So then she, at the same time, she went to that house, and then she knocked on the door again. And then I heard that the owner of the house saying that, you've been here for like so many times. It's not here. It can't be my house. But my friend insisted, just let me in. Just let me check again, right? And then so the owner was like, okay, just come in. So she went to the backyard, and she checked one of the deck. And then she said, they have 2 decks. So I said, it's in the deck in the front, not the one in the back, because she went to the back. There's nothing there. So just check the other one. And then the cat was there. So she just like, oh my God, it's there. And then I heard the owner in the background, oh my God, it's here for so many days. So my friend got her cat, and then I was like in awe because I was just following an instruction.
That was your very first, I would say, spiritual guidance experience?
Before, like the guidance is more of, like how to deal with my own emotional issue, or like it's not something this concrete of finding a missing thing.
Yeah.
Because, to deal with emotion and stuff, it's easy. It's not easy to deal with emotion, but the information that comes in that you tried out, it's just me.
Yeah.
Like it has nothing to do with anyone else, or to actually concretely achieve something. So for me, that is a very pivotal moment for me to actually be like, oh my God, this is not just in my imagination.
Yeah.
It's real. Because I had no idea that cat was there. So I think that's like one of my most important moment when I practice shamanism, because it's effective.
Yeah.
It's effective in a way that I can't deny. And then I also learned along the way that when someone lost their pet, it's not just, I'm losing my pet, that surface issue. When you lose your pet, there's a really deep lesson for you to learn underneath that in many ways. So the owner herself or himself would have to also change in a certain way for you to be able to connect with that pet again. So I didn't find all the other requests. I got a few other requests from other people for finding missing pets, but not all of them will come back, because there's some sort of soul lesson in that loss. Yeah, so I just want to put it out there. It's not every missing pet can be found in this way. I tried, and in a situation that they can be found, it has some sort of deeper soul lesson for the owner to learn.
Thank you so much for sharing that magical experience. For those who are listening and watching, if you're not like in awe already and be like, holy jamoli, is that real? You know what? I can vouch that this thing is real, because my sister-in-law, she also helps someone to find their pet. And I'm like, seriously, guys, this is real. And also, thank you so much for bringing the fact that someone who might not be able to find their pet, or even if they do find it, there are many lessons that people are meant to learn. And I think that goes well with everything in life. It's not just about losing your pet, perhaps it's losing your job, your family member, and anything. Like literally every little thing in life, if you look at it as a life experience, a learning experience, trust me, you're gonna look at the world so differently.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Especially when people are facing loss, it's like that itself brings up a lot of fear, anxiety, and worry in it. And then actually before that event happened, there are certain things in your life that already is brewing. It's like, like something that's brewing there for you to see something in the loss.
Yeah, you put it so beautifully. From my understanding, though, generally, shamanic journey is related with psychedelic drugs. Would you like to explain to people, for those who don't really understand about psychedelic drugs, Yeah, what would you explain to them?
So for shamanic practice, it does not only limit to the psychedelic part for practicing shamanism. I would say in my training, in my core shamanic training, what I understand is that 60 to 70% of shamanic practice they don't involve psychedelic. So first, most of the shamanic practice, for example, like Mongolian shaman or Korean shaman or like some other shamans, they use the drums, they use percussion, like repeated similar speed type of drumming or rattling or percussion. Use the sound to get you into an altered state of consciousness. So as we mentioned earlier, that shamanism is about to get to an altered state of consciousness. So psychedelic is one of the way to shift your consciousness to that altered state. So it's not it's not just one way. Like psychedelic is a way for you to get in, but it's not the only way. And so from my understanding for psychedelic, well, before I said that, I have to say that my main practice does not involve psychedelic. Like my main practice is focused. It's mainly focused using the percussion to do the shamanic journey. So for people that use psychedelic, from my understanding, is that you will like Peruvian, there's some curandero in Colombia or Ecuador, like mainly Central South America. They use psychedelic, and each culture or each tribes, they have their own way, their own unique way of, say, brewing the ayahuasca concoction. I mean, the brew, like ayahuasca brew. So you would need to know that when before you do it, you need to understand different tribes. They have different way of holding ceremony or using the ayahuasca. A lot of people learn about ayahuasca through Western, like adventurers. Like they would go there, they experience it, and then they come back, and then they share about it. And then a lot of people were like, "Whoa, like sounds great!" Like you enlighten and you get to experience different realm. It's really cool. Like I want to try. I want to like point out that this is the very typical Western way of thinking, is to you take things out of context. You're like, oh, ayahuasca is cool. So you start to see that people would buy ayahuasca and they use it at home. They just take it by themselves. And the other day, someone was sending me, you can mail order, you can order online for ayahuasca kit. So I want to put it out there is that, typical Western thinking is that we tend to take things out of context, and we ignore that, the culture, their way of thinking, their way of living, and then we just take this thing and saying, this is great, but without that cultural context, this doesn't work that well. It's just a plant. It might take you to different realm, but it might not work as effectively or as powerful as you work with a group of trained shaman. If you want to be ayahuasca shaman, you will need to be trained in their culture, in the jungle, with the way of their living, the way of thinking, and to understand how to brew ayahuasca, because you don't just brew ayahuasca one plant. You put there's some other plants you added in different tribes. They have different recipe for the brew. So when you have to work with a group of people who's highly trained, and then it usually takes years. I know that some like people from North America or from Europe, they will go through the path of training to become an ayahuasca shaman. And it takes about at least 7 to 15 years even to basically understand how the context of this ayahuasca, this psychedelic. And like a lot of people that they were born in that culture, even them, they have to go through apprenticeship to learn from a master, well, like a shaman, to learn how to use this and to understand the plant, to understand what comes with, to learn about the prayer, to learn about the songs, to learn many things. So it's not just like I take ayahuasca once, so now I can give it to people. It's definitely not like that. It's very dangerous. So trained ayahuasca shaman usually takes about 7 to 15 years. Even after that, they're still constantly learning from this plant spirit. Like we said, shamans work with spirit. And for ayahuasca plant itself has a very ancient spirit in it. And shamans, by taking the ayahuasca, working with the spirit, and even after 15 years of learning from someone, you still constantly learning from the spirit, because in the end, it is the spirit that's teaching you what's coming, what you have to do, what to pay attention to. So it still comes down to that full training. And also in the ayahuasca ceremony, intention is something very, very important.
I was gonna say that because when you said people who just buy psychedelic drugs and then they want to get into the other realm or whatever, but really, what is your intention? Like, but on the other hand, I think for those people who are listening and watching, it doesn't matter if you want to try psychedelic drugs or not. In your everyday life, what is your intention whenever you do anything? For example, if you are, let's say, you want to help somebody, and in your head, are you trying to help this person so this person can like you, or you want to help this person because you genuinely want to help this person? I think this is something that everyone should consider. Like, it's not just about psychedelic drugs or whatever. The intention every day, everything you do, think about your intention. And thank you so much for illustrating the spirit of the plant, because that reminded me of the movie Wakanda.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
Like, for those who haven't seen Wakanda, please go and check it out. Like, you will sort of understand it just by watching the movie. And also Avatar is honestly an amazing movie to sort of understand this side of shamanic experience as well.
These days I found there are so many more movies have the shamanic or animatic, the element in it. So pretty cool.
I know. Thank you to all those movie makers. And also thank you for, sharing with people that there are many other ways that they can experience it. And also reminding people that if they truly, truly want to experience the shamanic experience, please do find a good practitioner. And if it's too good to be true, if this practitioner is so cheap or whatever, I would highly encourage you to second think and be like, oh, like, is this right? You would feel it. You would know it.
I actually did a lot of research on doing ayahuasca because I'm planning to do it sometime. So I'm doing a lot of research on that. So when you're looking for a retreat, because there are so many crazy stories that you hear that people went to Central or South America and find a shaman, and then they got killed, they got raped, or they got robbed. They got into a lot of crazy things. Whoever practice like a shamans, even though they're in the tribe, they do not all create the same. They are not the same. It's not like like, oh, you're Chinese, so you definitely make good Chinese food. No. No, it's the same. It's the same same thing. No, not all not all Peruvians knows ayahuasca. So not all Chinese cook good Chinese food.
That was such a good example. Good job.
Yeah. So then you definitely need to find a retreat that's asking you about, for example, how is your health? Are you taking any medication? Or do you have any psychological issues? Are you going through any, like they do detailed survey on you about any medication you might be taking, because when you take ayahuasca, sometimes the brew depends on the recipe they use. They might have different herbs in there. So whatever they put in there might contradict the medication you're taking. And sometimes it can be very dangerous, because you don't know. Maybe I'm taking this and then now I'm taking that, and the two didn't work well. So there's a good indication is that if they care about all these details, like, and then also they will ask you about, do you have any traumatic experience in life? Because people who have trauma or serious trauma, when they go through the ayahuasca journey, it might be very traumatic for them at the same time. So all these things are you use to evaluate if this is the retreat that I should go, or this is also something for a person who wants to do ayahuasca to know if ayahuasca is something for me. This is definitely not something for faint-hearted people. You would need to, because when you take something, you would need to wait until this drugs or this
experience to kick in,
to take over, and to go to worn out, and you can come back. It's not like you're drumming and you go in journey and then you see something you don't want to see, and then you can open your eyes. You will need to be there to see what you don't want to see. So that braveness, or not brave, like it's like the willingness to face your shadow, to face your darkness, is also something to consider, that if this is something that I can do.
And for those who are listening and watching, if you still feel iffy about psychedelic drugs, well, as Mira said, there are other ways. So please, actually, while we are, talking about practices, share with people, how do you help people?
The way I practice is called core shamanism. Core shamanism is developed by Michael Harner, who's an anthropologist. He actually spent quite a lot of time in the Amazon basin to observe like Konibo people and some other tribes, and he worked, I think, a lot with Konibo people in Amazon. So he's actually his first experience. He's an anthropologist that crossed the line. like anthropologists are supposed to just observe what's going on with the tribe, but he got curious. He really wants to understand what these people are practicing in their spiritual part of their life, because he felt that they're not talking about it much, especially with the anthropologists who were observing them. So he asked one of the shaman that, what is it, you're doing? All I see is just you drink something, and then someone drumming and someone singing, and then you lie down, and then you gone for some time, and then so what is it that you experience? So the shaman would say, if you really want to know, you need to drink ayahuasca to find out. So he's like, okay. So he tried, he wants to understand. So he tried his first ayahuasca brew. He went through his experience, and I think he did it for a few times. But then the thing is that he came back, and then he's like, I don't really like that feeling of, taking something, and then that after effect, and then all the side effect that comes with it. He didn't really like it. So when he was doing other research in Amazon, he found that actually there's so many other tribes that practice similar thing, but they don't use any drugs or any herbs.
Yeah.
They basically just use drum or percussion. And then so he learned from these shamans, and then he found that all these different tribes, although they practice things differently, but there are certain things that are universal. Like, for example, he would see shamans take the bad energy out of someone, or he would see shaman bring some lost soul parts back to this person, or they would work with souls that didn't cross over to the other world. Or like, there are a lot of practice that's common, although it's done differently, but it's common. So he basically, he's an academic, so he just collect all the information and then organize them, and then with his understanding. And he's also a very brave man, I would say, because he used this scientific way of studying to research shamanism. Like, he would learn something, and then he would test it by himself. Like, for example, he would go into a really dark cave and just sit there with no one with him. It's just bring some really simple food and flashlight, and then just go into a dark cave to do the vision quest.
Yes.
And then there he encounter spirit. And like, to ask me to go into a cave in the middle of night, staying there for one, and there's no light, no nothing, and then you stay there. I don't think this is for anyone who's has
It's not for everyone.
It's not for everyone. So he has that scientific way of testing things, I would say. So for him, that although shamanism is some sort of, although it seems shamanism is you work with spirits and this and that, but for him, he tests things. He want to know if this is scientific. So for him, this is a scientific way of shamanism. So when he came back from Amazon, he went to, I think it's Columbia University, to teach. And then he offered a course on shamanism about, all his research. And then he started to teach people how to journey with the drumming or the rattle. And then over time, he, everything also evolved, and then getting more complete with the practice and everything. So then he started to offer workshops. There's this thing about core shamanism, neo-shamanism, traditional shamanism. There's this big debate in the Western shamanic circle that which one is the real shaman. But that's human nature. Human loves to fight for who is the best one? Who is
I
the right one?
I think the way that you said it is so funny because it's like you're right, it's human nature. Like we need to put things into like a box or a circle so they can fit in it. But really, they're probably all the same.
Yes, I think they're all the same. And there are people who are more drawn to certain way of practice. I think shamanism itself is a very individual spirituality. There is
Mm.
no right way or no wrong way
Mm.
of connecting with spirit. Like
Mm.
whether you connected it in a Mongolian way or Tibetan way, or you connect it through psychedelic, or you connect it with your own way. If
Mm.
you connect with loving, kind spirits that who wants to um, be there for human being when they're growing, when they're
Yes.
learning, then I think that's just the core of shamanism. There is no right way, wrong way, or better way or worse.
Yes.
Or it's just in the Western culture that everything has to go through marketing, has to be commercialized. This is the only way people would find out something, and that's in our culture, right? So without that like for example, like for Shipibo tribal people, like person, a
Mm.
shaman there who wants to share his his or her shamanic work, what's the best way in today's world? Of course, you have to do some marketing. You need to offer it in that way so people in our cultural context can connect with that.
Mm.
So I feel there's nothing wrong with to put it in this cultural context, because shamanism is like something to go with time. Like you have
Mm.
to adapt it with what's going on with the life now, because the core of shamanism is for people to first to survive and then to thrive,
Mm.
and the way of living evolves, so
Mm.
that practice has to evolve as
Mm.
well and has to adapt. But ethical part of the practice is very important when this thing becomes in a marketing or in a commercialized environment.
For those who are interested, that are listening and watching, I will be leaving Mira's detail in the description. But the way that you practice it, you use drum, and it's called core shamanism.
Core shamanism. The
Yeah.
reason it's called core shamanism is that he found all this universal practice
Mm.
from all this different type of shamanic practice around the world, and then he make it very systematic way of teaching the modern people, like
Mm. Mm.
us, to understand how this work, how you
Mm.
can use these skills to connect with your helping spirit. So everyone can learn,
Mm.
but although there's like people will be like, oh, is it easy for me, or is it
Nothing is easy in life.
but if you're really interested, this is something there for you to get into it. And then once you get into it, the main teacher is not human teacher anymore. The
Mm.
real teacher is the spirit, is the loving kindness, helping spirit teachers. They're there to guide you to know what to do. So I think that's where this individuality comes from, that you don't follow a guru. There's no guru to follow. Like teacher here is only teaching you a skill, but the rest of it you will need to figure it out, with
Yes.
real guidance.
Yes. I love the way that you put it. And the marketing side of it, that was hilarious. But I also I also want to remind people that not everyone out there has good intentions. So
Mhm.
just be careful and use your common sense. And sometimes just please trust your gut. Like if you know it's not right, then just don't go ahead with it. And again, like if you are interested or to at least give it a try, dip your toes in and wanting to see what it is like, please do contact Mira. Like she's not gonna harm you. Yet,
Yeah,
maybe. I don't
yeah,
know.
no, no. The discernment is very important. I think whatever we do in life, not just in spirituality, is that we have to, have that discernment when before we, decide if we want to do something. And usually people get exploited because they are in a very dark period in their life. They're trying to find anything that can grab to get them out of there. So they become
Mm.
desperate. They would, some of them would just do whatever people tell them, or they
Oh,
would just hang on to someone who has bad intention. So I think people who are in a bad or dark time, they're the ones that get exploited the easiest.
yeah.
So
That's just your
I,
journey. Sorry.
I actually encountered some people who went through that, and it's really painful, but at the same time they also kind of reflect how um, how weak they are. I mean, spiritually,
Mm.
mentally, even physically. A lot of them, they're very they're sick. They have certain disease, and when they have that vulnerability in them,
Mm.
it's easy for people to exploit them. So
Yeah, you're right.
especially when you're vulnerable, I think that's the time that need to be very careful with who
Yes.
you're with. Yeah.
Speaking about vulnerability, with your years of practice, what do you think people struggle the most in life?